A Thursday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show, also known as Orange and Blue Bloods Thursday. We got special guest Steve Russell coming up here. He'll give us an update on his thoughts about the Gator players in the draft. We aren't going to try to focus on the draft tonight. That's other things going on. I'm sure you will. But we got Ben Troupe watching. He'll be joining us later. We'll update what's going on there. No Gators expected to go much higher than the fourth round. There were some surprises at the top, which we'll talk about. Rob Browne of SEC Sidelines will weigh in on NIL matters, and I talked with Coach Spurrier today and Freddie Weeby about which direction this is going. So anyway, lots happening tonight on the program. First up will be Steve Russell and a huge weekend of baseball for the Gators. They got to win these against Arkansas. Stand by. Steve Russell is next. We promise you, we're not going to be doing the draft, but you will enjoy what we're doing, hopefully. We always like to come to you on this program. We appreciate your participation, your comments as well, our sponsorships we do as well. Stand by. Buddy Martin Show is on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the program. Steve Russell standing by in the orange and blue room. The draft is going fast. I've never been a huge fan of the draft. Probably my fault, but I did always think it was not really an event where they kept score, but it's become so big. And I know people love it, but I'm not a draft guy. Maybe Steve Russell is. Evening to you, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. It's funny you mentioned about the draft. With what we do, and a lot of times with Gators high in the draft, not this year, but, a lot of years, you really focus on the draft because you have to know, who's doing what. This year, I'm totally looking at this as a fan. I don't, I'm a Jets guy, so I want to see if the Jets screw it up again, in the draft or what they do. I love Jacksonville's move, though, to go get Hunter.
How about that?
I think that's a terrific move for them. And again, how they use him is going to be really interesting too. But I love that move. That's the first thing. If just a fan for Jacksonville, love that move
for two reasons. Number one, it shows the creativity. It shows that Jacksonville is trying to fix what they got, that pile of crap they got there in Jacksonville, and you get a 2-for-1 that changes the whole dynamics of the trade of the deal. You got a first-rate cornerback and a guy who can play receiver. Sensational player, obviously, and one that kind of surprised me. But they gave a lot. Did you see all what they gave up to get him?
Well, you're kind of getting two players. You said it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting though how they do that. Where he starts. Will he go on defense? Will he go on offense? How many snaps does he do in each? But I just love the fact they were aggressive and went and got a guy like him. If he's not the best player in the draft, he's darn close to it, and Jacksonville got him. That's a good move.
I read some interesting things today about that. And one guy, I thought the smartest thing was, he said, what you do is you get him ready to play defense. And because takes so much preparation to get yourself mentally and physically. And then once you have that locked down, you create a package or two for him on offense or spot him in the games. That makes a lot of sense, Steve.
I think it makes total sense. And that's exactly what I would do if I was the front office in Jacksonville. I would start him on defense. Not that it's easier, but I think you start him there. And as you said, buddy, get him in, see what his tolerance is, see what he's comfortable in, because you got to learn the offense too, right? So if you assume you do that, well, then in the preseason, you put him in there, and then in the regular season, you play him a few snaps and see where it goes. But they have the flexibility to do that, and he's a generational player.
Let's get to the Gator players. There's nobody really of note. There's 5 or 6. We've gone over the list. You can check them off if you want to. But that's certainly of interest, but not as keen an interest as others. The over-under on SEC players taken is 14.5. If they get to 15, that's a record.
Wow.
So that's what so they're going to be, you can get some odds over 14.5. You can bet and make some money on that. My gosh, you figure now you bet on the draft. Nonetheless, there will be a lot of players on the SEC drafted. Again, as this thing's become an SEC show, they've dominated in recent seasons with 155 players selected in the first round since 2010. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and Campbell from LSU, is an early go tonight, we saw. But, I think there are some guys. I think Abdul Carter from Penn State I think the Giants, for a change, got it right, picking him. They didn't go quarterback when the temptation was to go quarterback because they certainly need one. I think he's going to be a 10, 12-year star if he stays healthy in the National Football League. And you mentioned the Gators. There's not anybody. There's not a first-round guy. There's not a second-round guy. So there isn't, quite as much interest. But you always want to see, where those guys get drafted, and then, where they end up and how well they do in the end. You look back 6, 7, 8 years. Wow, he was in the league 8 or 9 years. He was a 4th-round guy or a 5th-round guy. And, buddy, I've always believed this in talking to scouts and talking to coaches. You don't make your teams on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round. You make your team by great selections in the 4th round, and the steals that you get for the value of the pick. The teams that do that really well, I think, draft really well.
Well, he's got to remember Tom Brady was a 6th round of Michigan. Yep. You're right. And somebody did a research on this one time about Hall of Famers. They found a huge number of Hall of Famers are from the mid-rounds drafted, not the first rounders. So,
yeah. And how many busts are there in the 1st round? If you go down and look and, this guy didn't pan out, that guy, it's an inexact science. And that's why obviously scouting is so important. And then what's the fit for what you do? If you draft a player and he doesn't really fit into the scheme you're doing, it's senseless to draft him. You have to draft to what you do. That's why with the Patriots got Campbell, Vrabel, he wants to beef up the offensive line. Guess what? They went with him, and it's questions about, his arm length and such, but he's going to be a good player.
When you watched Florida Miami last year and you saw Cam Ward, who played well, how impressed were you? Did you ever dream he'd be the first player taken in the NFL draft?
No. Did I think he would possibly be a 1st-round draft choice? Yes, because I think he's got the measurables and the tools. But I watched him play in that game, buddy, and I was very, very impressed with his looking down, kept his eyes down the field, kept his feet moving in the pocket, didn't zone in on receivers. So what I saw in that game against Florida, I never dreamed he'd be the top pick, but I thought he's got a real shot to be in the 1st round.
I agree with you because he gets rid of the ball really quick. I thought, man, he knows where to go with it and how to get rid of it. And he threw accurately. So I thought maybe he's got, but I didn't know. Well, good for him. All the best to him. Back to Gator sports before we get to baseball. Defensive tackle Andre Robinson went into portal today. Is that a big list, a big loss for the Gators?
I don't think so. We'll never. Point is, we never really know, what happens. First of all, when a guy goes in the portal, I think fans react like, oh, we lost this guy. And there are some players that you do lose and you have that reaction. But the other side of the coin that people don't understand is, what if Robinson doesn't work out where he goes? How big of a loss, was that? The fact of life is going to be that players are going to come and go in the portal. And more, buddy, it is my opinion, you're going to see NIL and money become an increasing factor in why players either stay or go in the portal.
I've been intrigued by this last week, and I've been really trying to dig down deep to get some answers. I try to think like a fan, which is hard. And it's so confusing today about what to expect. You're asking for their loyalty. You're asking them to contribute money. And yet you want the players to have some freedom and have the opportunity to move around. Coaches move, players should be able to. But now it seems to have swung way over to the players' side. Now they're dictating the terms. And now we've got players like Amal Oliva, I can't say his name, in Tennessee, who completely whiffed on his value, thought he could leverage Tennessee and wound up leaving and going to UCLA and taking his brother and winding up UCLA's quarterback coming to Tennessee. So it's crazy. I'm not against that, but I asked Coach Spurrier today, and I'll play this interview another night, about what can you do about this? Because remember, he's the guy in 2013 who threw his wallet up on the table and said to the SEC coaches, these guys got to be paid. I say we pay them all $300 a game. We can pay for it out of our own pockets. It's only $21,000 a year. I want to know, sign this piece of paper, and I'm going to tell the media who doesn't sign it. He really was advocating for players to get paid. But I asked you today about what can be done regarding, where we are now, because it's out of control. And we don't know what is going on. It's all a secret. All we can do is guess. And he said there's got to be a cap. You have to have a cap. And because whatever that cap is, I don't know what it will be. Each team will have 20, 22, 25 million, whatever it is. And then it's up to the coach to determine where that money goes. And, the reason that Tom Brady did so well, as he pointed out, was Tom Brady went to Tampa, could have gotten $50 million. He took 25 and gave the other 25 to Bill Gates players. Mm-hmm. They all got paid. Well, you think they weren't happy? So it does matter. So greed is going to rear its ugly head at some point regarding that NIL money. It's all brand new. It's difficult. I don't know about you, but I'm so frustrated trying to report it, and I'm a little bit worried that we're seeing more and more of these. I don't want to call them betrayals, but it feels like it. Like Denzel going to Kentucky. I know he got a lot of money. Even back in football, where we had players going to LSU and Etienne going to Georgia. And anyway, it bothers me a little bit because I'm old school in that regard. I don't know about you, but I know that's the way of the business, but I don't have to like it.
No, you don't have to like it, but I think, buddy, what happens with fans of all schools is if you lose, I know there was a lot of discussion about Aberdeen, why he left. His dad, said some things, I didn't necessarily agree with, but that's his dad's point of view. But so fans get upset when players leave, but fans don't get upset when you get players. When Ricky Pearsall came to Florida, anybody upset at that? No, because you got him. So it's a two-way street. The portal giveth and the portal taketh away. And if you do a cap, buddy, I'm not against the cap, but is the cap going to be, in the NFL, the cap is the cap, right? Well, what about if the ACC and the SEC have a cap? Is it going to be different for the other leagues? So is it going to be one cap for the SEC, one cap for another league? How are they going to come to terms on that? If there's going to be super conferences, which I think they're going to be someday, are they going to set the bar? Can everybody else compete? Yeah. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's going to be tough to do that.
You're right. But my argument is not so much against the portal. It's against the players who go to the other side of the street. Like going to Georgia, what have you, that's a dagger. Even to some degree going to Kentucky. That's fine. That's your choice. But as I've said many times, don't expect to come back to Gainesville and get to go down to the Spurs and people buy them drinks and so on.
No question.
They're not Gators. They're gone.
No, they're gone.
Got to come back here again.
Yes. I have no problem with a player going from Florida to Georgia or a player going from Oklahoma to Texas. No problem. But you're right, buddy. If you think the fans of the school that they left are going to embrace them because they were here, no. Doesn't work that way. I'm right with you.
Does Florida play at Kentucky, or does Kentucky come to Florida this year?
In basketball,
Yeah.
next year I haven't even looked at the schedule. I
What
don't know.
kind of the reception do you think Denzel will get in Gainesville?
Well, he'll get a mixed reception.
Yeah.
But I hope Gator fans understand and will appreciate that whatever player leaves, if that player was a part of helping you win a championship, then that player should be at least appreciated for the contribution that player made. Okay. And I think fans tend to forget that because they go to the other place. But if they do come here, will his reaction be mixed? Sure. I think it'll be mixed.
And more so why they're upset, because he was part of that. Anyway, let's talk baseball.
Yeah.
And Sully's had an amazing record. They've always made the playoffs. Last year's was phenomenal. Last year's season turned it around. Incredible turnaround. Didn't he start 0-7 or 0-8 in the SEC this year? What was his record? It was pretty bad. And now here he is with at least a chance to be one of the and be in the field for the tournament. And he's going to have to start this weekend against Arkansas. Talk about the Arkansas series. Talk about the pitching, and talk about how much better the Gators hit the ball last week.
There's a lot there. Let's unpack this. Florida has 4 SEC series left.
Mm-hmm.
South Carolina, at Texas, Arkansas here, and they end with Alabama here. The combined record of those 4 teams is 42 wins and 30 losses. So it won't be easy. And Kevin O'Sullivan has a losing record in the SEC in his career against Arkansas.
That's amazing.
He's better than, I think he's 10-8 at home because they don't play every year.
Mm-hmm.
But Arkansas has been a problem for Florida. Now, Arkansas started out great this year. They're a really good team, but they're not playing as well as they played earlier. And I think, buddy, this all boils down to what happens on the mound. If they get good starts from their Friday and Saturday guy, the 2 guys that have, with Peterson and Aiden King, if they can give you 6 and they can keep you in the game, they got a real shot. But if they don't, if they get knocked out early, that's going to tax an already thin bullpen. And Sully said it the other day after the game, very frustrated because McNeely was not good when he started the 3rd game against Mississippi State, and it's still a TBA for who's going to start that game. So you just hope that the Friday, Saturday guys do their job. I think Clemente has acclimated himself to the closer's role, but Philpott, McNeely, somebody has got to step up here and give them middle innings. They're going to keep their team in the game. If not, Arkansas has got a chance to win the series.
And Sully's been very fortunate. Those young pitchers they pitched in midweek games that they would lose, and guys like me would scream about it. By the time they got to the end of the season, they were veterans, and they've always had somebody stepping up, but they had a lot of injuries this year. I mean, Liam Peterson's become really, really good, and with all the injuries he had this year. I was really impressed with Brady Donay. I mean, 3 home runs all of a sudden. Where's he been? He's been in a slump, so you got some players hitting the baseball. How do you expect them to hit the ball against Arkansas?
Arkansas's pitching staff's good, buddy. And I think that's another, key to the game. But if you look at the ERAs of the guys who are starting, they're in the 4s and 5s with a couple of them. So that's just, okay, especially by Arkansas standards. But moving Bozer to the leadoff spot, I think has worked wonders for him. It's more at bats he gets to get in a game and over the course of a season. Shelton's been as consistent a hitter in the 2-hole. Heyman was in a terrible slump. He's coming out of that now.
Yeah.
Their lineup is deeper now. And that, again, has got to help the pitching. So they're going to have to keep scoring runs and keep doing a good. Sear's been a little up and down. But if you notice, Sully likes to have, if he can, a set lineup. And he's pretty much gone now with, Wilson and Wright, Yost and Sear, and then Bozer, Shelton, and then Nadeau, and, whoever at first base, Lawson, whoever's playing first base, and Heyman, and then Donay as the DH. That's been the primary alignment that Florida's run out there with recently, and that lineup's done a good job. So I think we'll see that again this weekend.
Lawson also started to hit the ball pretty good. So
Yes, having a heck of a year.
I'm going to bring this down for 1 second, and we're going to talk a little bit about the draft and let you go. I know you got things to do. There's someone you probably know about. He played a little ball at Florida. I think he might have been a tight end, so as I recall. Ben Troupe. Say hello to Steve.
How you doing, man?
Steve? How you doing, sir?
Doing well.
We talking ball here, and we're going to talk on the draft. I've always been a guy who thinks that the draft is overrated. I'm a minority. And I know that I told my wife earlier, it's kind of like American Idol when they get picked and they get their day and make all their money, instant millionaires in a sense, and their families. I understand they get thrilled, and I probably missed that side of it. But where do you stand on that, Steve? How big is the NFL draft?
Oh, it's huge. The NFL is the best sports organization in the entire country in terms of marketing, in terms of keeping its product out there almost all year long. I mean, look how many people are at that. It's a draft, for crying out loud. It's a draft. And look how many thousands of people are attending that and watching it on television. It's a big deal. There's a pregame show for it. So whether you like the NFL, whether you like people who are the commissioners or not, the league, the people who run that league are smart, they're business savvy, and they know what they're doing. And they've made this a huge event. I mean, just watching it and watching some guy, the fifth pick of the draft. Okay. But somebody's doing something right because a lot of people watch it and a lot of people go to it.
Well, thank you, Pete Rozelle, who set this thing up a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's why they're the class. That's why they dominate everybody else with Pete Rozelle. And now tonight, Ben, I heard one figure. Someone said 125,000 were there in Green Bay. And then somebody else said 250,000. They must be getting Trump to count their crowd. I don't know. But the bottom line is that it is great. And it's like an on-campus playoff game. You know, Green Bay will never get a Super Bowl. There's no way they'll ever be rewarded. And Ben, I'm sure you played there. There's great fans there. And to see them tonight get so excited about the draft, it's a real blessing for them.
It is. I think when the draft decided to move away from New York every year and started giving other cities, I was in Nashville in 2019 when they had the draft there, and being drafted there in 2004 and seeing how the city came out. I mean, certain what the NFL does a good job with is marketing. You talk about what they do with the games overseas. You talk about being able to have the draft for different cities shows the fans, because it's all about the fans. Because as you mentioned, unless you're a hot weather city or you got a dome, that's the only way you're gonna get a Super Bowl. So when it comes to the draft, to be able to have the best draftees, I'm there in 2019 when Kyler Murray was the number one overall pick. They had guys like Daniel Jones and Cleveland Farrell, but it was so many people in downtown Nashville. I was there working the draft. And I made a dumb decision to try to walk through the crowd. I barely got out. And but it's great though. It really, really is. It's a moment in time, buddy, because when you think about how many players come out every year from Division I, Division II, HBCU, NAIA, Ivy League, and to know I'm one of the top 200-something guys going to get drafted, whether it's the number one overall pick or the last pick, it is a moment in time because it's surreal. You saying to yourself, wait a minute, man. Because people always ask, how you know you're going to get drafted when your phone rings? It's smoke and mirrors until then. So I am happy for these guys because, every guy that laces on the cleats, everybody that put on the helmet want to go drafted. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you come from money. I don't care if you come from nothing. I don't care if you come from humble beginnings. Everybody wants to get drafted. And to know that some of these guys' dream going to come true tonight, I'm happy for them. I know none of them. But you watch the draft for two reasons. You want to see who you get, who your team gets, and who their rivals get. That's why you really watch. And they say, oh, you missed on this player, missed on that player. But I'm just happy for these guys. And let me say this. If you were supposed to go pick number 10 and you go pick number 12, you did not drop in the draft. You got picked 12. That's the crazy thing. Man, he dropped to 15. Did he? Or did he get drafted 15 overall? So I've been enjoying it thus far. It's I'm gonna give you a quick update.
Hold on 1 second, right? Hold on 1 second, Ben. I'm gonna let Steve go because
Okay.
he's got to get out of here. I mean, I'd love to have you, Steve, if you want to stay, but
Understand.
probably and let you go do what you're going to get done.
Yep.
And we'll talk more about that list that you have, what's happened. You've been watching it, and I've been watching it, and I must admit, I probably was wrong about one thing. It really makes me happy to see these families, these young men, as they become instant overnight multi-millionaires. The day is they just hit the lottery, and you're happy for them. So from that standpoint. All right, Steve, thank you so much, man. Good talking to you. Let's do this again soon, all right?
Okay, guys. Good talking with you.
All right,
Yes, sir.
Steve Russell, one of the greats. Appreciate his time being on here. All right, Ben, so let me just do this commercial real quick for my friends at Meldon Law. As you know, Meldon Law, of course, is the staple of Gator sports. They also are the only official injury law firm of the University of Florida, and it couldn't be more orange and blue. I know that Jeffrey had a great time out in San Antonio, being with the basketball team, being a friend of Todd Gola's, being a huge fan, and getting to enjoy all that stuff all the way through to the end. Jeffrey's a great Gator. He's also a great supporter of Gator sports, and he's a pretty good lawyer, too, by the way. If you want anything to do with law, and I do, I have hired them to do a job for me, I suggest you get a hold of someone at the Meldon Law office in Ocala or Gainesville or Wilson or Lake City, and contact them and tell them what you need, even if you need to have a case reviewed to make sure you're on the right track. Meldon Law, they won't back down. Ben, do you get any kind of warm fuzzy memories about nights like this? Tell us about the night you got drafted.
Yeah, I do. Going back to 2004, that's back when they did the first, second, and third round on the first day, and they did rounds 4 through 7 on the second day. And I just remember being in Swainsboro, Georgia, my hometown, and being in one of my dad's friends' house, just sitting in a room with every major news outlet from the Augusta area, from WSAV, WAGT. I mean, the Augusta Chronicle, all these people were there. And I just remember my family being there. A teammate of mine, Isaac West, who a lot of people don't know, played at Furman. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Coach Billy Napier threw to him, because even though Coach Napier is like 3 years older than me, I think he was a senior when Isaac was either a redshirt sophomore or a freshman. But he threw to Isaac West. He remembered him, and buddy, that's early 2000s when cell phones could still roam. Wasn't no navigation on them. And so even though I graduated high school from Butler High School in Augusta, Isaac drove, him and his sister Maya drove to my draft party, because I got drafted. I came out of 2004. He came out of 2005 because he redshirted. I just remember Isaac being the best teammate I had in high school, and I played with Carlos Rogers. We ended up, winning the Thorpe Award at Auburn, and going like top 10 pick. But having my family there, and I remember this bluntly. The story of the 2004 draft was the San Diego Chargers. The then San Diego Chargers had the number 1 overall pick, and Eli Manning got drafted number 1. And his daddy Archie came out and said he's not going to play for the Chargers. And the Giants had the 4th overall pick, and they drafted Phillip Rivers out of North Carolina State, and they just swapped. Eli went to New York, and Phillip Rivers went to obviously the Chargers. And I remember pick 32. I remember this. Commissioner comes up to the podium. He said, with the 32nd pick in the 2004 NFL draft, the New England Patriots select tight end Benjamin Watson out of Georgia.
Benjamin Watson. All right.
Benjamin Watson. But I remember.
What happened? Did you kind of skip a beat?
I did. I was like, I did. But when pick number 39, Jacksonville had pick number 39, and I remember my phone rang. And it was a 615 area code. Now, that once again, you can see the area. It ain't like now when somebody call you, you can actually see the state they're calling from. You might not know the city. And I remember Jeff Fisher, picking up and saying, "Hey, Ben, this is Ben." I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "It's Jeff Fisher, head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Are you ready to be a Titan?" And it's such a relief, because it's so many emotions that be going on in your head. You be telling yourself so many things, but this goes back to what my agent, Joe Siegel, said when I first met him. And, when you first meet your agent, because you upstairs in compliance with Mike Spiegler and Ashley Bowman and them, they helped me and my mom, pick these agents. My agent said something to me when I first met him that it came to life. He told my mom, he said, "Ben, you will not. He said, I'm only here because you're going to be a top draft pick. He said, if you weren't going to be a top draft pick, me and you would have never met. He said, you will not go before 20 and you will not go lower than 40. I got drafted 40th. So, yeah, man. So it just lets you know these agents, man, they've done it so much, man. They don't got the crystal ball, but they definitely know where you're going. But I just appreciate the entire process. But it was so many people that it's so many people that went into me being able to be drafted, and not just my family members, not just my teammates. It's just to have it happen for you, because like I said, Kellen Winslow was the 6th overall pick that year. He was the 6th overall pick out of Miami. So we had 3 tight ends in the top 40 picks, and I got to go to the rookie premiere. I did, but I'm just who was this right here? Perry Mason said, "Big man, looking good. How you feeling about Blue Chip Billy?" I feel real good about Blue Chip Billy. I'm loving what Coach Billy Napier is doing. But let me stay focused. I just think, buddy, being from a small town of Swainsboro, Georgia, and understanding how rare it is to go to the University of Florida, how even more rare it is to get invited to the combine. Being a first team All-American, first team All-SEC, John Mackey Award finalist, a captain on your team for your senior year. But to get drafted, it's not the ultimate culmination of your career. It's just validation to say, dang, man. And I got drafted, and the next day I had to get on the plane to go do my introductory press conference in Nashville. And I'm on the plane in Atlanta, and the pilot said, hey, on this flight, we have the tendency, because I was the 2nd round pick, but I was still the first pick of the Titans. They moved down in the 2nd round. He said, we got, the Titans, first pick in the NFL draft, Ben Troupe on the plane, and people was like clapping for me. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It was weird, man. It was weird, but it was the best feeling, because as nerve-wracking as it was for me, it was so humbling, because I look at my mom, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers and sisters, I look at my family. I'm a direct representation of them. None of them got to do the things I've done. So I did. And then the first person I met, the first person I met when I walked, it was called Baptist Sports Park. I get off the plane, I get in the car, and they take me to the facility. The first person I met when I walked in the facility was Aaron Kenny, former tight end of Florida. He had I walk in, he had on, and EK had on like some shorts. He had on like a nice little white polo shirt with like a hat. And EK gave me his number on like a card. He was like, hey, I'm EK, Aaron Kenny. And when I tell you, to this day, if I don't have Aaron Kenny taking me under his wing the way he did, treating me like a little brother the way he did, loving me and teaching me the game like he did, I don't know. I don't know if I make it a year, because everybody needs somebody to show them how to do it. If I'm in media, I need Buddy Martin to show me how to do it. Because it doesn't matter how talented you think you are. It doesn't matter how gifted. You need somebody who's done it, proven. And he was the first person I met, and I believe that's why my experience. And the only thing that messed me up, buddy, to this day, I didn't know nothing about no Central Time. I ain't never heard of that in my life. So when I get to Atlanta, get on my flight, I'm looking at my ticket, and my ticket said I left at 1 and I arrive at 1. I'm like, what type of ticket is this? So
that's a fast plane, man.
listen. So just imagine this, buddy. My young 21-year-old self. I go up to the lady at Delta, and I said, "Ma'am, there's something wrong with this ticket." She like, "What you talking about?" I said, "You see that? They say we leave when we get there at 1." This is what I said. I said, "So does time not move? Like when we go in the air?" And this lady looking at me like, "What?" I said, "Does time not move?" And she was like, and she told me, "Sir, are you all right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's a 1 and 1, right?" And you know how long it took me to realize? Because my mom used to call me in the morning, and she'll say, "Good morning." She said, "Why you sound?" I said, "Mom, what time is it?" And she'll say, "It's 8 o'clock." Oh shoot! Now my thing, my clock is saying 7. I'm jumping, putting my clothes on, getting to work. Realize, dang. And people used to say, people used to think I was a dedicated player getting to work early. And it took me like a year to realize, wait a minute. Somebody said, "Man,
Daylight savings time really
It's
screws
wild.
you.
It's wild. But I am happy for these. I'm happy for all the players because, like I say, buddy, it's like a graduation from college to the pros if you get a chance to get drafted because you beat the odds and going to the combine and going to work out with going out there to work out in New Orleans with Tom Shaw. I got to meet a lot of players that I played against or heard about, and I just learned how to root for them. I learned how to become teammates of guys who used to be rivals on the field, and all I can say is congratulations. I would tell to every draft pick, whether you get drafted or you are an undrafted free agent, you need to come up with a thank you list, and you need to get everybody.
I see that Dolphins just got a defensive tackle from Michigan, Kenneth Grant. So you'll update us on some of the first.
Yeah. I'm looking at K. Grant, defensive tackle, went to the Dolphins. T. Booker, offensive guard, went to the Cowboys out of Alabama. Michigan up put 3 in the first round already. They got their defensive tackle. Yeah. They got 2 defensive tackles. So they got defensive tackle K. Grant that went to the Dolphins. They got Mason Graham, defensive tackle that went to the Browns, and they got Colston Loveland, their tight end that went to the Bears. So Michigan up put 3 in the first round already.
One they were so good, right?
I mean, hey, one thing about Coach Harbaugh didn't leave them guys in a bad place. I mean, he left to go to the NFL, but he knew what those guys could do. But I mean, the surprise of the draft thus far is not where he went; it's who got him. Travis Hunter was slated to go to the Cleveland Browns. They traded that pick to the Jags.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah.
Travis Hunter is a Jacksonville Jaguar. That is, they're already selling tickets. That jersey is flying off the shelf right now.
I like the pick. I like the fact that he put all in, put a bunch of draft picks this year first, last year's first, the 6th, and what have you, in that package to go up to get him because they need something in that franchise. It's really
they did. They need a spark. I mean, Coach Liam Cohen, who former offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay, said, "Okay, who am I going to get with my first pick? I got to make a splash."
Yeah,
and let's get Travis Hunter. Let's trade up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they got the youngest coaching staff in football. I think their GM was like 34 years old. I think he's on like 34 years old. So you got coaches who are young enough to know who they listening to on their phones. But
we had Frank Fangio on last night. We talked about a lot of possibilities. No way we ever saw this coming. No way.
It says, look, we got a new face as our head coach. We got a total new way of thinking, a total new mentality. Trevor Lawrence is going to be our guy. Who can we get? Travis Hunter, a guy who you ain't gonna have to introduce nobody. He's a Florida boy. I think he's originally from Florida.
Yeah, I think Georgia is where he lives, South Georgia.
Well, he's from Florida, but he grew up in Georgia. He grew up in Georgia.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to bring in Rob in here in a second. We're going to talk for a minute about this thing of the NIL because I know we're bouncing all over the place. We can't follow the draft that close tonight, but we'll give you an update if anything big happens. And I want to talk about the dilemma that we're in right now where these players have the control. They have more control than what they were supposed to have. And they can't figure out how to control it. It's out of control, and there's no one to control it. I had long conversations today with Coach Spurrier. He has some thoughts about what to do. His thoughts, and he was the guy in 2013 who really went after the other coaches in the SEC for not paying the players.
Yeah, and
he wanted to give them all $300 a game.
Yeah.
And they said, "You crazy?" If they listened to him then, they wouldn't have been in the mess they're in right now, probably. But anyway, that, and of course, Freddie Weeby had a nice conversation with him about he's in the business of raising money for the NIL. One of the things he does part-time, in addition to running Steve Spurrier's restaurant. But he is caught in the middle. He wants to remain loyal to the values of Florida, but he thinks they're going to have to do something to get players. They're going to have to pay them an outrageous amount of money, obviously, in some cases. And I found out from him exactly where Florida is among the the top NIL schools. In
Mhm.
fact, I'll bring our guy on right now, Rob Browne of SEC Sidelines. He is in the morning time. He's the curmudgeon. At nighttime, I become the curmudgeon. He's get off my long guy during the morning. SEC Sidelines.
Yeah.
Good evening to you, Rob.
Hey guys, and Ben, I was listening to you talking about draft night a second ago, and we'll get you back on because there's so much football, but you do more than football. But I was listening to comments made today about the kids coming up after the last 4 years of NIL, that the draft boards, when they evaluate them, they said that a lot of these kids, they said there's a problem. They're coming in, they've already been getting paid, and they kind of feel like, well, I've been getting paid, and it's not as exciting on draft day for them because them guys have always gotten a little something here and there, but now when you got a guy that was making $2 million a year or $3 million a year, and he gets drafted, and it's a little bit of a bump, or it may, depending on the rookie contract, it could be less. That part, and we think that it's going to ruin the game, but it's not. There's too many people that love the game, but I like what Ben said watching that draft, because I remember talking to, and I've talked to a lot of players, and Ben, you live it. Draft night is so big. It's like your wedding night or the birth of your children. I mean, it's that big a deal. And so it's special. But we better be listening to Steve Spurrier, what he said. And also, if 10, 20, 30 years ago, when athletes were asking for basic pension benefits, health care, if we would have addressed that, I'm telling you, we would have avoided being where we are now. But when you ignore something like this is what happens to you. And now the power is in the hands of the athletes, and the men need to stand up and say, okay, enough. Go back and look at what advances used to be in the music industry in the late 1980s. REM got an $80 million advance to produce music. That was the end of REM. Look now, you may get a $500,000 advance. You got to go out on the road and tour. Okay. This thing, the market will correct. I know people don't believe it, but it'll correct, won't it, Ben? You know that.
Yeah, it's gonna correct in more ways than one. The first way it's gonna correct itself is these rosters are gonna go down dramatically. You're not gonna be able to have, 125 guys. They're probably gonna be 102 guys, which could potentially kill the walk on. It could potentially have to go. But I will say this about NIL, right? People have to look at NIL, from a wide angle. There are certain players that's going to get money. When you talk about how many players are actually getting it, it's still a small percentage. It is not. I get it. The kid Nico, from Tennessee. Well, he's the only holdout ever. Ever since NIL has been going. And I see the guy from UCLA. Now he's coming to Tennessee. Now I get it, but the reason why you can appreciate NIL is this: if I'm an NIL kid and I got some money and I'm getting drafted, when I see how these big name players work, when I see how these players in my position work, you ain't gonna have to worry about that, because I think sometimes, if you are a Travis Hunter, right, the last thing you want to be is an entitled, NIL kid that's already getting money. Because what you did in college is over with anyway. You're going to drive a nicer car already. You know about endorsements and things of that nature. But I think sometimes when we get to talk about NIL, all NIL is, forget the N and forget the I. It's all about the L. Whoever has the most leverage will get the most money. And that's life. That's not even NIL. Whoever has the most leverage is going to get the most money. Now, with the Nico situation, what happened with Tennessee, it is buyer's remorse sometimes. But what do you think? If Brendan Martin is coming out of high school and his daddy buddy negotiated almost $9 million before he ever took a snap, and the first time he goes out there as a starter, they make the college football playoff. Hello, you don't think that's going to make him want more money? Everything a player learns in NIL, they learn from a coach. Everything. I'm talking about using leverage while you have it to go to another school, using leverage while you have it to get more money. Everything, because if coaches don't like what players are doing, well, coaches need to start being more loyal to the contracts. They're not going to do that, right? You know whose fault this is? This NCAA. They knew this. They knew this hurricane was coming, and they did absolutely nothing. So now somebody said, hey, man, this Doppler radar got this NIL thing coming. What we going to do, man? We just hope it's going to pass over us. It's not. It's coming, and now it's here. And now, once again, it makes it look like it's the players' fault. It's not. It's not. Because once again, the Floridas of the world, the Georgias of the world, I get it. But for every big name school in the state, it's 25 schools that's not. And it's those schools that be looking at this stuff going, they got how much to do what? So, and that's another thing too. When you start talking about this profit sharing or whatever they're gonna do, that's gonna make the smaller schools get even smaller. Because this is what I said NIL should have done. These big schools, Florida included, should have had a pot that they put money in, and it is not for them. It's for the schools in the state that can't afford to pay their players. When I think about a collective, I think about, how many schools in the state? I think Florida and Georgia got 18 schools that got football. Out of 18, how many can afford to play their players? 3, 4, maybe. And that's a slim maybe. So for me, I'm thinking about it from a standpoint of how much money can these coaches, can these collectives put in a pot for these other athletes? Because the one thing I don't like about NIL is it don't benefit every athlete, and it should. And it's not supposed to be the same. I don't think it's supposed to be the same. But when I went to the University of Florida, I benefited from everything Florida had: coaches, players, resources, facilities. So if I become a great player, it's because I was surrounded by greatness. NIL could help boost, some of these student athletes' experiences, because I don't think it's always about the money. It's too many organizations and businesses out there that's willing to give away stuff they use or have. Because, like I said, if I'm in Florida, as a minute ago, Nolan Simmons was he was over there financial aid. Nolan Simmons was calling our parents, telling our parents, please tell them to stop getting loans. You can't get a loan for $750. That's what I'm sitting like this. All right, $750 approved. No, so for me, I get the ones that's getting it, and I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at the ones that's getting their money. I'm not. But the players who get nothing say to themselves, "Hey, we couldn't get anything." And I'm not talking, like I said, what if I'm with Nike, I can't get a gift card. If I can get a dealer card, something like that. So I don't know. We're not gonna figure it out in a day. We're not gonna figure it out in a month. But if you want to blame anybody, it is the NCAA, because they sat on their head. They sit on their head there now. They're doing it right now. So I don't know the solution. But before you blame the player, I want you to ask the player, hey man, where you learned that at? Oh man, I saw my coach do it. Remember them coaches in the NCAA tournament that made it to the Sweet 16, got put out, and they was head coaches at somewhere else the next day. Mm-hmm. They taking a new job. So I don't know. I don't know the solution. I wish I did, but I will say this: you better start having people who were a part of the student athlete experience as players, male and female. They need to be a part of the decision making. Yeah. You can't have people who are good at business trying to make these decisions, because if I've never been a journalist, I don't know. I got to have 2 sources before I put something. I'm sorry, 3 sources. You know
Buddy heard that.
So I'm just saying, I think you got to have people that have had it. Coach Spurrier will be great because Coach Spurrier has been a coach and a player, and he understands. Before we talk about the money, let's talk about what the money can do. Let's talk about what the money can do first before we start handing out checks. And all
right, so I'm going to stop you there because it's a lot to unpack, and just jump in here with a couple of thoughts. And Rob, you can pick it up on the other side of that. But first of all, as nice as it sounds, it's not the job of the universities to support and pay for small college programs. I'm sorry, it's just not. That's socialism. Now, should they have an ability to play ball? Yeah. What was wrong with the Division II and that kind of football and club football? You can have a football team. You can still have a team. And when they started to pay, when you move into a higher cost neighborhood and you start driving the same kind of cars your neighbors are buying, and play and living up to their standards, it can break you. You have to understand you're limited in what you can do. And the markets are forever changing, and your value is yet to be determined, and it may not be anywhere near what you think it is. I noticed a quote tonight that Rick Pitino said he can't wait till people know the real story behind the inflated NIL money that they're putting out there. But oh, wait a minute. This Toby Perkins for breaking news. Toby Perkins said Thomas Hoff announced he will be back for another season at Florida. Yes, that's good news for Gator basketball fans. This guy's a baller. I love Tommy Hoff. So that's great news. Thank you, Toby, for that. But to round out what I was just saying, this is my opinion. Obviously, I've said this for 30 years, Rob. You know I've talked about it.
Mhm.
We knew this is coming. We knew that they're going to be an elite league. They're going to break it down. They're going to be 30, 40, maybe 50 teams playing big-time, big boy football to compete with the ratings on TV, because that's what it's about. To get more money, you got to get the ratings, and there's not enough TV for all these teams to be on. So you're going to wind up with probably 35 or 40 elite teams playing in the Super League, making most of the money, and then another level down, D2, whatever you want to call it, where they're getting some money with their own playoff system, and then you'll have the club football Division III, whatever you want to call it. That's what's going to happen. I've been saying that for 30 years. I think one day I'll be right if I say it long enough. That's one. And the second thing is that be careful what you ask for. I've been asking for this playoff for a long time, and part of me wishes I hadn't. And I know I've talked to a former athletic director at Florida, who's now dead, who said if we'd listened back in 1980, when all the Olympic athletes started getting paid, and this guy, by the way, was someone who did not want to pay the players. He said, we knew then that things had changed. We needed to start paying college players back in 1980, and we would never have had this problem. They're in this problem because they didn't do right, and now they're having to pay it for it. So there's a lot going on here right now, and it's very confusing. And all this whole thing, too, is also, remember, I heard a fan say today, I heard it said today on Feinbaum's show, and I've been saying this, come a time where there are going to be some people who said, time out, I'm not going back there to pay all that money for parking and concessions and tickets and waiting in line, whatever, and I'm done with going to the university. I'm going to go watch small college football where I can go to Cedar Park and get a drink for under $10,
Yeah.
And you will start losing fans, and you don't want to lose fans. Now, look, Spurrier said that we talked about. He says they'll probably end up coming back because they're still coming out like crazy. But there are some residual impacts of things like this when you make changes and you don't pay attention to the people putting the money out there and buying the tickets.
Well, the gouging of the fans has been going on, let's be honest, since 9/11. It's called the Hegelian principle. You use a terrible event, which it was, but on-campus access. You got to tailgate 5 miles from campus. You can't park. It's the age of you can't do this. You can't do that. No, no, no. You better be in the business of telling your fans what they can do. And you better be making them feel welcome on campus. And it's not every kid getting NIL money. It's kind of like if you look back in the late 90s when the NASDAQ was just setting new records every day, there were about 20 companies that accounted for 80 or 90% of the growth in the NASDAQ out of thousands of companies. There's a handful of guys getting money in the NIL, and Ben knows this. If money can solve it, it's not really a problem. And all this money and I know we all know people that deal with the athletes. Hey, if I was 18 or 19, or I had a kid 18 or 19 right now, and they could get this, I'd be like, all right, let's lock it up. You'll get $5,000 a semester. You can blow that, but the rest of it, you're going to lock it up. And I put out on Twitter last night, these parents that are living vicariously through their kids, that's a problem. Go make your own money. And I wonder how many of them would be as interested if the money was put into an age-banded trust that the student athletes couldn't get to. They get a little bit of it, but 95% of it till they were 30 or 35 years old. Ben and I've talked about this a lot. And buddy, don't put yourself down. You're smart. You did not get to where you are in your business and have the career you had, or Ben or any of us, by being stupid. And again, it's the adults that have created the problem. And Ben's right. No one's going to tell their kid to walk away from this kind of money. And they all know it ain't going to last forever. And when you talk to fans, once the games start, we love it. And that's what we got to remember. Once the games start, NIL, it's big in the off season. But I will say my intern, Oakley, is from Nashville. 3 of his high school friends play on the team at Tennessee. And they all told him in the last week, everybody in that locker room loved Nico. That wasn't the problem. It's his dad. He's a monster. And Arkansas, I'm telling you, Arkansas is looking to see if they can sue his brother Madden because he got like $200,000. The way contracts typically work is if you violate them, you owe 60, 70, 80, 90% of that money within 60 business days, no questions asked. So again, don't blame the kids. Yeah, it doesn't look good for a 19-year-old to drive a Lamborghini because we're thinking, I didn't have that when I was 19. But if the money's there, every parent in the world is going to tell them to take it. I just hope they invest it and lock it up and just tell people they're a rodeo clown. Don't tell them they're a professional athlete. Nothing against rodeo clowns, but they don't make that kind of money.
All right, so go ahead, Ben, and have a final thought on this. We'll wrap it up, and people can go back and watch them. What's next to the draft?
I would just say sometimes it's not about what's going on; it's who's benefiting. I don't think it's about NIL. When transfer portal happened, people like that's going to be the end of college football. We moved on. NIL comes, it's going to be the end of college football. Yeah. We got how many coaches make $8 to $9 million a year? A bunch. How many of them winning championships? Not many of them. How many of them even make the college football? Not many of them. And that's nothing wrong with that. I think what happens is, look, if I had a horse and carriage business, I was pissed off when cars came around. Like, really? They're gonna take all the, or I'm gonna learn how to get with cars. If I was the old model Zenith TVs and these flat screens came out, I'm pissed. Or I'm gonna learn how to get with these flat screens. I agree with what you just said, Rob. Look, football is idiot proof, man. In the words of Franz Beard, when they kick that ball off, ain't nobody gonna worry about this. Now, I get it. It could get ugly. Remember when big time players were sitting out bowl games? They don't even do that no more. They stopped doing it. I'm telling you, it's a moment in time. And buddy, you know what we do the best in college football? We adjust. We are the best at doing it. And we adapt. We have to, because fans listen, the fans always gonna say, I ain't coming to the game, man. And the question is, well, what you gonna do then? I'm not gonna watch. Yes, you are. I'm not gonna come. Yes, you are. Because it's something college football it's a different kind of attachment to the game. It's a different type of attachment to the school, to the players, and we gonna forgive them. And it's really we forgiving ourselves. Buddy, it's like this. When Todd Golden first got hired at Florida, they was like, oh God, I don't know if we got the right guy. Oh, Billy Napier, I don't know if we got the right guy. All it takes is one game, one season. Okay, well, it ain't that bad. That's kind of how we are. You know, we tend to overreact to anything that's unfavorable to what we want to hear. But buddy, like I said, when it comes to NIL, it's here to stay. But if we really did a deep dive on NIL, we would realize this. It's still rare. We act like everybody getting millions. It's not. The NIL is real similar to the NFL. People think you in the NFL, you make millions of dollars. Not true. That now you got guys that do, you got a bunch of guys that don't. Now you in the NFL, you making good money now. I ain't saying you ain't making good money, but I think sometimes the Nikos of the world, the DJ Lagways of the world, the Arch Mannings of the world are rare.
Very.
I'm talking about the rarest of the rare. But guess what? All it takes is one Nico to help the market. He gonna help the market switch too. Because that kid that's going to Michigan that was supposed to go to LSU, the number one recruit in the country, how he got
Bryce Underwood?
He got $9 million or whatever he got. So, like I say, what they say, money talks and BS run a marathon. Hey, it'll be fine. I just hope that when it comes to
on this note, this is how things change so volatile. Remember when Jaden Rashada was the talk of the town?
Mm-hmm.
How went crazy to get him there, and he's been 3 places since then. University of North Carolina just canceled their visit with Rashada. They don't want to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
How life has changed for one player. This is how quickly it can. Rob, you're in the money business. You've seen it. You've seen people, millionaires become beggars. It happens. So anyway, so I'll just
It's
say I'm
horrible. It's debilitating to lose all your money. I've seen people, and that's why we tell them, look, the only money I'm going to manage for you is money that if you lost every penny of it, you could still get up in the morning and function. And I love you, Ben, for what you just said. And buddy, my dad and you can remember back in the 50s when they put college football on TV. Oh man, my dad was like, people thought nobody'd watch the games.
One game a week.
And look at 1984 when Chuck Ninus and the CFA, Oklahoma and Georgia sued to put all the games on TV. I was in college, but who's going to go to the games? They're all on TV. Name me a stadium in America that hadn't expanded 2 or 3 or 4 times since then.
No doubt about it.
We just, it's because we grow. No, we're wired. We read what Buddy says. We read Ben, but we're going to have a guy on the show in the morning on our morning show, George Somerville. I met him last year at Media Days. Brendan and I had him on the show. Touchdown UK. Talk about the popularity of college football, SEC football in Ireland and Scotland and Wales and in Great Britain. It's huge over there. So we may think we got problems. Hey, man, they got soccer problems. We will work this stuff out. And again, the money, Ben's right. The fact that you could name the mega recipients of NIL money just then on one hand tells you there ain't really that many of them.
All right, guys. Great job, Rob. Thank you for filling in. Don't forget Rob's show, SEC Sidelines. Ben is still doing his podcast. He'll be in a neighborhood near you soon, probably writing a book. I'll be doing a TV show. He'll be doing it all. Ben's got big things ahead, I know. So, Ben, thank you, buddy. Good being on with you.
Hey, buddy. I don't know if you saw this before I go. The Phillies are only 2 games ahead of the Braves. We're going to catch them. We're going to catch the Braves in the match.
You're breaking up. I'm not hearing you. I don't even know what you're talking
Ben,
about.
I'll get you on next week if you'll come on.
Come on. Anytime you need.
All right, guys. Good night. Thanks.
Thank you for letting me be on.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Rob and Ben, thank you for being on the program
Always.
today. We're going to let's see if we can do this. In case Rob can't lock himself off. There he goes. All right. I want to tell you about our friends at Titan MRI, who are so important to us, make us keep us going on the air. We do appreciate their great sponsorship. They do a terrific service too, which you should know about. If you don't, if you live in the North Central Florida area, particularly, you can now get a CAT scan or MRI, whatever, and you can get it on your terms in terms of when you want to go and what you want to do. And also, if you have to have an MRI, you're claustrophobic, like getting inside those tubes, you don't have to do that. They got bigger tubes, bigger cages where you can go in there and get that taken care of. It's now called Titan MRI and Imaging. And they acquired Highfield MRI and Joe Colorio, and now is now with Titan. So he started Highfield in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations to serve you, 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue location, and now at Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City serving all of Clement County and Valdosta, Georgia. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service as always. They accept insurance, and through their special convenient self-pay program, you can make other options. Titan MRI and Imaging, check them out. Shouldn't be in Marion County. All right, thank you to Titan. Thank you to Meldon Law. Thanks to Ben. Thanks to Steve Russell. Always great to have Steve on. Big baseball series. And thanks to Rob. Don't forget Rob's show in the morning. On behalf of my friends and neighbors, I do appreciate that. And thank you for listening. We'll be out for a couple of weeks. I wish. A couple of days. I'll be back on Monday. Is that right, honey? She said, yes, that's okay. Be back to you on Monday. And thanks for listening. And thanks for watching The Buddy Martin Show.